Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kevin Rigsted, the chairman of the Goffstown Zoning Board of Adjustment. Welcome to the July 10th, 2012 meeting. The Goffstown Zoning Board is an elected board of 5 members and up to 5 appointed alternates. Although it doesn't look like it tonight. Currently, the board has 5 elected members and 4 alternates. If anyone is interested in serving on the ZBA, please see Brian Rose for more information. The board has a posted agenda for each meeting and tends to follow the items in order. The board will open the public hearing on an application to receive testimony from applicants, abutters, and affected parties, and ask questions about the appeal. The public hearing will then be closed, and the board will enter into a deliberative session to discuss the merits of the appeal. For each application, the board will decide to approve with conditions, deny, or continue to a later meeting. You are welcome to watch the deliberations this evening, or you can contact Brian Rose at Town Hall to get the results. For an applicant's request to be approved, there must be an affirmative vote of at least 3 members. An applicant can request a continuance if there is not a full 5-member board to act on an application. If you are aggrieved by a decision made by the ZBA tonight, you have the right to appeal to the Superior Court. However, before appealing to the Superior Court, you must request a rehearing with this board to preserve your right to appeal. Rehearing requests must be filed within 30 days of the decision and state all reasons why the decision was illegal or unreasonable. Failure to request a rehearing may forfeit your ability to appeal to Superior Court. And with that, I'd like the board to introduce itself, starting with
Ed Lupi, Vice Chair.
Gayla Breck. Vivian Blondo, alternate.
And I'm Brian Rose, the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
And thank you for all applications as of so far. Vivian, please act as a member to voting in the applications this evening. And as we mentioned in the introduction, we normally have 5 voting members. Right now, we only have 4. So when you come up for your application, if you said, I'm going to wait till next month or something, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to proceed with hearing your application tonight. So we have an agenda. We have 4 public hearings, the request for a hearing tonight, and we're going to start with approval of the minutes from the June 5th meeting. Anyone have any comments or motions on the June 5th meeting?
So moved.
Make a motion to
Second?
I'll
second.
Okay. Any discussion or corrections on the minutes from the June 5th meeting?
No.
All right. All those in favor of approving the June 5th meeting say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstain? Okay. So we're going to proceed with the first public hearing tonight. Get this out. And please, always correct me when you get to the front if I mispronounce your names, because I do that frequently. Gaston and Teresa Choquette, owners, applicants, are seeking a variance to change a non-residential use to a multi-family use for a 3-family dwelling in the commercial zone. Whereas sections 3.11, table A3 of the zoning ordinance lists multi-family dwellings as a use not permitted in the commercial zone. The property is located at 626 Mass Road, which is map 16, lot 120 in the commercial district. And before we act on this application, we need to determine regional impact. Staff recommends that it does not have regional impact.
So moved. Second.
That's a Gail and Vivian. First and second, any discussion? All those in favor that does not have regional impact say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstain? All right. In the packet, there's a number of items on staff review. And who is speaking for this applicant? Sir, please come to the front. We want you in that chair because we can see you, the town can see you, can hear you, and please state your name.
Gaston Choquette.
Okay. What are you asking for?
Well, I'm asking to change the use to a 3-family. It was 1 family, and it was a business. Dr. Tracy was on the first floor, and then there was a driver's ed school into the basement. And I'm just looking to make it a 3-family, which is more more demand for rental as an apartment than there is into business.
Okay, so you're asking for just a single variance, I believe.
Yes.
Board members, any questions? I have a couple questions if nobody has anything.
Go ahead.
I guess my question is, it's in that current configuration right now, right? It's a three-family residence?
Yes.
How long has it been that way?
Well, it's been an apartment upstairs for the past at least 15 years or more that I know of. And then the first floor was the dental office. And then there was the driver's ed school in the basement area.
When were those modified into residences versus businesses?
I don't remember, quite a while back. The dentist's been there for at least 15 years anyway.
So when did you do the conversion into,
No.
Residences?
No, Dr. Tracy did it himself.
okay,
Yeah,
you're the
Dr.
property owner though?
Yes.
How long you been the property owner?
18, 19.
So did this happen without you knowing about it, or?
He rented the whole building from me, and he subbed out. He subbed out.
Okay. Do you know if there was modifications made to turn it into residential units?
No, that's the way it was before.
So bathrooms, kitchens?
Bedroom put there, yeah. Kitchen, there was a kitchen on the third floor, well, I guess the second floor because the basement. And then there, on the first floor, there was some cabinets in the sink, but I don't know if there was a full-fledged kitchen or not. I'm not sure about that. I don't remember.
So it's three separate units?
Yes.
Can you just, how did we learn of it? I guess we don't have to describe how we learned of it, but does it meet code? Is there building permits that weren't done? Is there,
The file isn't very full on this subject, and so, I have to make the assumption that, a permit wasn't pulled for the work that was done, and that the approval that needed to be granted wasn't granted. The fire department had been there and had seen that it was for rent for an apartment, and remembered that it was supposed to be commercial offices and wondered if that was a change of use. So that sort of triggered me looking into it. And when I looked into it, I found the site plan that had been approved was back in 1991, and it was all non-residential uses. There was a mix of different uses within that building that had been approved on the site plan. However, there was no residential stated on there, and so to me, I made him aware that that was the case and that he really needed to go to the zoning board if he wanted to have those residential units be legal units in the town.
and so you have in the staff review that if we were to give him relief, essentially a granting that it'd be a three-unit family dwelling, that he has to go to the planning board for site plan review.
Correct, and that's because anything more than a duplex requires a site plan review. So a three-family would require a site plan review by the planning board.
So I'm not gonna ask questions then of, is he even habitable,
There's a
you-
three-family unit now?
It's a three, right?
Is there 3 apartments right now?
Yes,
3 apartments being used right now?
right.
Okay.
There is enough parking on the site. There's
Right.
more than enough parking on the site, but
From my
haven't-
observation, there doesn't appear to be enough garbage and recycling, cause maybe because it's been considered a business or something, and,
Right.
and so it just piles up.
Yeah, there's a problem with garbage right now, yes. Yeah, I've been taking a lot of the garbage myself to the dump.
And who did you say owned it before you? We have here Normando,
Don
Donna,
Normando owned it
Professional
before, I did,
building.
yes, I bought it from him, yes.
and on the assessment card, it says there was a dentist and a bed, one bathroom or apartment, it probably meant one bedroom. Driving school on the second floor.
School's in the basement.
Well, it's swapped around, but the dentist was over in the basement. Okay.
Basement's, dentist is on the first floor.
So it looks like your piece of property is considered a commercial property. You're surrounded on 3 sides by residential small business.
Yes.
Are there businesses in those locations, or, you know, is
Yes.
it mostly, there are?
Yeah, there's one business, well, there's Watoy across the street. Then there's Tom Sousa in the
Mhm,
back.
mhm, okay. Let's see. Does this, if we were to essentially almost rezone it for this use, does it meet all setback requirements, or do we need to, do we fall into that, or are we,
Well, you
What
wouldn't
do we
be,
need to do?
you wouldn't be rezoning it, but you would be allowing the use on the property. The site plan would essentially probably show the existing structure, which is a non-conforming structure, and would be considered a non-conforming structure in the
in a change of use?
change of use, yeah.
In this change of use, we don't have to look at, we would not normally look at setbacks and things like that as also,
Because it's a grandfathered structure, I would say you wouldn't,
and they're not changing.
Grandfathered
Grandfather for commercial
unless you're
use, though.
changing the building. I mean, you may consider that as part of your decision tonight, that it's a non-conforming structure, and, you know, whether or not that the change might have an impact on the surrounding properties. But
Right.
So,
I do wanna make a second exit on the second floor, which is only one exit now. I wanna make a little deck with another stairs coming down on the backside.
that was my question. I didn't think they had a second exit out
No.
there.
Wouldn't that be required?
It is required, yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't required though.
No, because,
At the time?
right. Because I think it was built in the seventies, so there was no,
I think if I remember right, it might have been built around 68 or 9, somewhere around there.
Does the basement apartment also have a second exit now?
It doesn't, and I wanna do that also on that.
So it's not really conforming for apartment use at the moment.
correct, yeah.
But it's occupied, right? Is it
Pardon?
occupied?
What's
Is
that?
it occupied?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
yes.
So I'm gonna walk through the 5 variance criteria, see if it engenders any questions. So you talk about the variance would not be contrary to public interest. You talk about that the neighborhood is surrounded by commercial and residential buildings and in mixed zones. You speak to the spirit of the ordinance as observed. Talking to helps conserve the surrounding property values by preventing the harmful encroachment of incompatible uses. And that it doesn't change the character. You talk about granting the variance would do substantial justice. You believe there's a need for more apartments in the Goffstown area. And then also, you'd be able to not afford your taxes, you make a claim.
Absolutely.
You afford your taxes, not lose your property. Because it's not, you're stating that it was difficult to rent out for businesses
Yes,
prior to
it
this.
was, yeah. I tried to rent it out after he moved, and there was no bites at all.
When was this, when he moved?
He moved out, at least about a year ago, I guess. You know when he moved into the other place? At least a year ago.
So about a year ago is when you
Roughly.
rented it out, all 3 units to, as apartments?
No, I rented it out. I tried to rent it commercially for quite a while first,
Mhm.
and there was no bite at all.
At a year ago,
The people were calling me for apartments.
yeah, a year ago, was there any residential use of that building? Or was
Yes,
it all been?
yes,
okay.
there's been an apartment upstairs for the past at least 15 years.
I see.
And it was a Goffstown cop that was living up there for quite a while.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he lived there until last year. when Tracy moved out, he moved out also.
Okay. Number 4, you say that the values of surrounding properties will not be diminished. Structurally, the building is the same. The only difference that it will be a 3-family residential use in a commercial zone. And then the last area is demonstrating that the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship, and that you've, owing to special conditions, you've tried renting it. No one wants to rent it as a commercial. And again, you're speaking to that you're able to rent it as a residential and pay your taxes. Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
Do we have any responsibility as far as him making this thing to code?
Yes.
Or is that the
We
planning
can
board?
approve any of
I
this.
think probably, but I think the building inspector would probably be the one to make sure it goes to code.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna make a condition of approval that he meet whatever building codes he needs to meet.
Requirements. Yeah.
Especially with the dual exits, because that's a fire hazard, not being able to get out of that building other than one door.
Well, the fire department would be in on it and everything else,
Yeah.
yeah, there's,
Is that a planning board function, or is that us here?
it wouldn't hurt to put it in, let's
Hmm.
put it that way.
Okay.
I have no
Okay.
problem of doing that.
Yeah.
I'd like to, matter of fact, that's why I came in to talk to Brian, and that's what I wanted to do, and then, that's when we started on this here.
Okay.
I came in to apply for a permit to put a second exit upstairs.
Yeah, but all the apartments would be required to have 2 exits.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any abutters who would like to speak on this application, either for or against? Any interested parties, anyone else who would like to speak on this application? All right, thank you. Any last questions before we close the public hearing? Do we need any additional information? All right, we're gonna close the public hearing on this application. I'm open to motions or further discussion.
Make a motion that we approve the applicant, with the stipulation that it meets all building and fire codes.
Second.
Any discussion on that? It's either you may have discussion, I guess, because they're the ones that came up with the motion. So. Okay, with no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the application with the one condition that it meet all building and fire codes as it goes through the planning board, because they're gonna oversee that, obviously, when it goes for site plan review, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstained? Okay. That's it. All right, the next item on the agenda is Richard Dupuy, Dupuy, thank you. Richard Dupuy, trustee of the Susan Dupuy Rev Trust, owner applicant, are seeking variances for a proposed lot line adjustment. Variances are required to allow a rear yard setback of 4.5 feet for map 15 lot 10, whereas section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance requires 30 feet, and to maintain the use of non-conforming lot for map 15 lot 10, with a lot size of 7,162 square feet, whereas section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance requires 10,000 square feet, and to maintain the existing use of the non-conforming lot for the lot frontage of map 15 lot 10 to be 70.40, whereas section 4.3 requires 100 feet. The properties are located at 11 and 19 Glen Ridge Avenue, which is map 15 lots 8 and 10 in the residential 2 district. And before we hear from the applicant in this case, we need to decide whether this has regional impact. The staff recommends that it does not.
Make a motion, so.
I'll second.
Okay, first and second that it has no regional impact. Any discussion? All those in favor saying it has no regional impact, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a staff review of 6 different items here. Picture of the lots, zoning description map, And an applicant in front of us. Your name?
Lisa Comack. I'm with the law firm of Bellevue, Fedette, and Gallant. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Dupuy. He's also here, and also Joe Weichert.
Do you need to have her spell her name?
Yeah.
Can you spell your name, please?
Yes, it's C-O-M-A-C-K.
Okay, please describe what's, unless everything I said was it.
Everything that you said was on point. I believe that the packet that we have provided to you outlines the necessity for the variances and the reasons that we should be entitled to the variances. I have, like I said, Mr. Dupuy is here to answer any questions with regards to Lot 8. I believe there's been some discussion as to what is gonna happen with that lot if the lot line adjustment is granted from Lot 8 to Lot 10. And I also have Mr. Joe Weichert here.
Okay, the description didn't say that it needed any variances for Lot 8, is that correct? Lot 8 will meet all setbacks and lot size and frontage, right? There's, although it doesn't meet the frontage, I
It
believe,
doesn't meet the frontage.
okay? And I think your staff application, or staff packet said that.
We just made the determination on that lot that it didn't need a variance because the lot frontage wasn't changing at all. It was gonna remain the same as what it has been, so.
Okay. All right, understand. Any questions by the board?
I do have a question.
Mhm.
I was at the site, and believe me, I can't figure it out.
The map?
I was there, and I'm like, we saw the house, saw the cottage, saw the barn, but what are you doing? I mean, I know you're changing the lot lines, but if you were on that piece of property, I mean, I walked it, I was really, really confused on why change the lot line?
Okay, if I could so kindly defer, Mr. Weichert.
What's that?
You could answer for me.
And Mr. Weichert is?
I'm Joe Wickard. I'm here tonight on behalf of Mr. Dupuy and as Attorney Comack mentioned. Can I put this up?
You can put it right here.
For the TV? So, we prepared the lot line adjustment plan, and to Mrs. Blondo's comment. Basically, what exists now is we have a lot that has a hair under 80 feet of frontage that's known as Lot 8, or I think that one's 11, Glen Ridge. And then we have 19, which is Lot 10, which incorporates all the back acreage. Okay, so that total acreage as it exists is 1.35 acres. Well, the problem is Mr. and Mrs. Dupuy had, their daughter was living in the existing residence at 19. And she has moved out, and they would like to dispose of the existing house. Well, it's very difficult to sell. If you look at the tax map exhibit, you know, this is probably one of the biggest, this back acreage is one of the biggest portions in the neighborhood. And annexing that to the house has just become problematic to sell. So the intent of the application this evening is to take the back acreage, annex the majority of the back acreage onto the existing vacant frontage. So we'd have one lot with 80 feet of frontage, and when if the variance were to be approved and the subsequent lot line adjustment approved by the planning board, that lot, instead of being 6,400 square feet, would then increase in size to 58,243 square feet. Then the lot with the existing residence would reduce from the 59,000 square feet to 7,162 square feet. Now, you have the litany of the counts that Brian had cited and everything, but if you look on the tax map exhibit, this neighborhood certainly predates the requirements for the current ordinances. So what we tried to do is try to make the existing residence that we're trying to separate off, make that as compatible to all the other lots in the neighborhood. So what we've done is we took this, this northerly lot line, with the exception of lot 12, you know, that was a straight line that went across. We actually bumped that down a little bit to increase the setback to the proposed cottage. And if we had made the entire 30 feet and made it a fully complying rear setback, what it would have done is it would have made this lot where the barn is, it just basically, it's gonna look odd and would prevent anything to be happening next to that barn in the future for a buyer or whatever. So the intent this evening is just to take that back acreage, or give us permission to go forward, at least to the planning board level. Take the back acreage, annex it to the vacant frontage. That would allow the Dupuis to sell the existing residence on a 7,100 square foot of land versus the, whatever it is now, the 59,000.
But there is a cottage on there now.
Well, there's a barn that's right here.
No,
The cottage would go with the residence.
There is a cottage now,
There's three buildings. There's the
Yeah.
existing residence.
right.
There's what we're calling the cottage that
Right.
sits behind it, and then there's the barn.
Is it occupied, the cottage?
No, the cottage isn't occupied. It was, I think Mr. Dupuy had mentioned in the past, it had been used as an office for a business, and then, it had been used as like a playhouse for kids, and it had been used for, I think, whatever that, is it Plum, Richard? Yeah, storage.
So in effect, you're creating a lot line there, which you're showing, and you're
Yep.
eliminating that lot line, attaching that parcel to that lot.
Right.
So that it's got frontage on the street,
Correct.
and then people can buy and do whatever they want with it. Within reason.
Any other questions, Vivian?
Is this the house that was formerly owned by Bozier?
Yes.
It is? Oh, okay. Then I was in the right area. Okay.
Just as a side note, any application for development on this new lot, the parcel A plus the other one, would still require a special exception because of the non-conforming frontage. It's a non-conforming lot due to frontage and would still
Right.
remain that way. So any development on that lot would still have to come back to the zoning board for a public hearing again, prior to being developed. Unless if the planning board were to approve a subdivision on that property with a road going through it or something. I mean, it's 1 acre, so I can't really imagine.
Which is
what
not being
happened.
asked for tonight, but who knows?
It's not, yeah, that's all just conceptual.
Okay,
That's it.
any other questions by the board? I think you've answered all my questions. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any abutters that would like to speak on this application?
I'd like to say something.
We're gonna start right here. Please come forward. And please state your name.
I see, the way I understand it, they want, what, 4 feet of my
Sir,
land?
can you state your name, please? And your
Oh,
address?
My name's Frank Pikarski.
Frank, what?
Can you spell your last name?
P-I-E like in pie. Car with a K, K-A-R, ski,
Got it. Thank you.
And you live where?
28 St. A's.
Okay?
When I bought that property, let's see, it was about 45 to 50 years ago. I never even heard of any backyard adjustment. Why should there be a backyard adjustment now? I got in that back piece, it's not just empty. I've got my raspberries, blueberries, my big, garden. I had 2 apple trees back there, which one fell about 2 years ago. And my blueberries are close to the back line.
Are these, all the things that you spoke of, the garden and everything on your property, or do they?
On my
They're on
property.
your property. What are you afraid of if they change the lot line?
Well, my blueberries are close to the back line. What happens to my blueberries if they take the 4 feet or 5 feet, whatever it is?
So I think,
What happens to them?
I don't think they're gonna be taking anybody else's property. I think they're trying to adjust the lot line, but not actually changing who owns which property.
Can I show?
Sure.
This is their property right here.
Yeah,
Your property's right here.
yeah.
Now, they're looking at changing this line to this line.
It's
So they
not gonna affect
They're
my
not- It's not
property.
gonna affect this line at all, where it
Well,
butts
it
up to
won't
your
affect
property.
my property at all.
Not at all.
Okay, that's what I, that's
Unless,
what,
unless they build a house here, I mean, you might see a house back there, but it won't affect your property.
it won't
line.
affect the property.
No.
Right.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
I'm glad you came by, though, to talk about that. Hope your blueberries grow well.
Hey, I'm ready to be picked, you know. I've been picking those darn things for, let's see, over 30 years.
Yes? And they don't stop growing.
Well, they need trimming now.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Kukarski.
and the raspberries, well, they're out in the front part. And he went down to pick them the other day, and they didn't get many.
Birds.
Okay, as long as I know that it's not affecting my property.
We don't believe, yes, we don't
Okay,
believe so.
thank you.
You're welcome. I saw another hand raised. Please, ma'am, come forward.
May I borrow the gentleman's print right there?
Sure.
May I-
Could you use your diagram?
Can I put it up there, or do you want me to just show?
You can put it up here, but then we're gonna want you to know your name and your address.
Yep. My name is Pauline Carreau, Carreau. Vivian, come over tomorrow, I'll show you what you're talking about.
Okay.
And can you, what's your address?
My address is 25 Glen Ridge, I live right over here.
So across, is that,
No, Mr. Dupree
Okay,
lives
got
over
it.
here, and I'm right here. I own the house right here,
okay, got it.
all right? We have houses here that he's not showing, he's just showing the address, but there is houses all through here.
That's correct.
This is our back, this is in back of our yard over here, and Mr. Dupree owns a certain portion of the house next to us. This is all woodland that's been there since we've lived there for 42 years now.
Okay,
This over here is 2 lots that Mr. Dupree does not own. He only owns this portion over here, and then this portion over here. How are they gonna get in there to build anything when and if we approve the zoning? He's looking at 10,000 square feet where he only has 7,100 right now. What is he gonna do over here? What is he gonna do with that land? What good is it to give him more land for this property over here? What's he gonna do with this?
I think the application's actually to take land away from that property, because right now,
This right here?
correct, that's
Why?
what,
How is he gonna get in there? How is anybody
lot
gonna
right
get there? There's a barn over here, he owns all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he wanna move his line?
they claim to say that it's difficult to sell that piece of property with the home on it because it's too large.
So he wants additional land for this, or additional land taken away from this view,
Taking it away from that view.
from this over here?
That's correct.
So they would have more land in this area.
Tied to that piece of property on the
But
right-hand
how,
side.
which right of way are they gonna have? That's St.
That
A's
piece of
Drive,
property
that's
right
Glen,
there.
right here. How big is this? Is it the width of the
79,
driveway?
According to this, it's 80,
almost 80 feet.
80 feet wide.
Off Glen Ridge.
Yeah.
The lot map shows it as being 79.95 feet
Yep.
wide
This right here?
That's correct.
and 80 feet,
7.9 feet.
79.
79.
79.
And then 80 feet that way.
This
This
way over here.
line here would cease to exist, and all
Okay.
that property would be part of this lot,
And how are they gonna get in like this? The
off
street's
Glen
gonna
Ridge
go-
Avenue. They could come in through here.
With the driveway off
Okay,
of
so
there.
giving him more land for this land over here?
Take it away. Because
Oh,
right
yeah,
now, all that
existing,
land
right.
belongs to that piece of property.
Right,
Right
and what
now.
is he gonna do with this? How much left is there gonna be in here? How many square footage will there be left in there?
I think you described like 10,000,
What was the
I'm
map?
sorry.
50 something
Like it's
thousand.
51,845 square feet.
So what is he gonna do with that?
There's been no description on what
So
sort of
why
things
doesn't he just keep the whole thing and sell it that way?
That's the
That's the
description of they're having a difficulty selling it as a large piece of property like
Right.
that.
So are you telling me that in the future, he's not gonna build him back over here?
He's
He may
not
not
stated
even
that.
own it.
But he doesn't even own, he doesn't have enough land to build in the back of there.
There probably is.
1,000 square feet's an awful lot of land to build on.
Yeah.
It's over an acre.
If there's water and sewer there, the minimum lot size is only 10,000 square feet.
There you
And
go.
so, I
And he
mean,
has 7,100
he
right now.
he would be making that a 51,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's possibility for 5 lots,
For a two-family home,
Five
or
lots.
single or two-family. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
single family, actually, it
So
would,
we've lived
it would
here
only
for
be
20
allowed single
42
family.
years now, if and when, I'm sure he'll build. Now we're stuck with somebody in our backyard. We're all gonna be stuck with somebody from our backyard, in our backyard.
Yeah, it's
There's
about-
been
that's
no
about
description of what he's gonna do with that
I
property.
know, we don't know that.
Right, I understand.
Okay, just want to
Okay,
give you my opinion,
got it.
okay?
Thank you.
If you wanna see the land, come over tomorrow, I'll show you.
Okay.
Do you want your drawing back?
I'll get it when it's not done.
Thank you for letting us use it. Is there anyone else? I'm gonna go to the second to the row, from the row backs. The green shirt, yes. Good evening. Your name?
Derek Murdoch,
How do you spell that?
M-U-R-D-O-C-K,
And you live at?
17 Glenridge Ave.
That's right, that corner property.
Correct.
You're surrounded by the Dupuy property.
Yes.
All right. You have a comment or a concern?
I don't see there being any issue with my property. I just wanted to ask. I don't know if there would be any problems in the future with my property. I know right now it's, it's paved and there's a garage next to my yard and it's,
Right.
but I didn't know if,
Well, they're, as you probably heard, that they're not planning on building any new structures tonight. Obviously,
Yeah,
they-
no.
as Brian pointed out earlier, that, they possibly could build in that area, they could build in that property, but they would have to come back,
well,
to
my
talk
question,
about
because
that.
I know the existing house is there now,
Uh-huh.
and then that side part where the barn is. So if he built up back, that wouldn't affect my property in the future for zoning, like if I wanted to put a garage,
I
add a
don't see that
garage, just
direct,
nothing like that.
impact. No.
Okay,
Other than that you could eventually have a house in the back, but you could have that right now.
that doesn't bother me, so
Yeah.
I just,
Okay,
okay,
any other questions?
nope, I just.
All right.
Make sure there's no effect.
I think you got a nice big piece of property there, so,
Mhm.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I saw another hand in the far back, sir? Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and your name?
Roland Centerville, 36 St. Anselm's Drive,
And can you spell your last name?
Seneville.
And your comment?
Well, I got a couple of issues that actually go back to when Mr. Busier was there. I know that these gentlemen went in there and they surveyed the property, and I'm guessing in the areas where they're going to do the line reductions and stuff like that, they probably went in there and pinned the property. My property is lot 1310, which is a relatively large lot, which abuts the lot 1510.
You're on the left-hand side of this piece of property,
I am.
running north-south.
And in the years that I've been there, I've had the opportunity to run into Mr. Busier a couple of times, claiming that I was always on his property, and we never seemed to figure out where the lot lines actually were. After Mr. Busier left, Keith, the fellow that took over the property afterwards, came over and we had the same discussion as to where the property lines were. When I bought the property, I'm pretty sure I know where my property lines are, but the problems that come into play are the properties that run parallel to this division that they want to do on the St. Anselm side. Just like if you're standing in the bottom level of the property, you're almost looking up to a level of about 8 feet high at the top level of the property. If you walk down through the woods back there, you'll find things like old sofas down there, wheelbarrows, all sorts of stuff that old tenants have just kind of dropped over the hillside. I don't think anybody realizes where the actual property lines are there. So, I mean, if they're gonna sell off the property, it would be great if somebody would go in there and actually pin off the property so people actually knew where their property lines were, as opposed to people coming out and just making accusations that you're on my property, or, you know. So that's one of my concerns. Because of the difference in elevation getting down to the property, there's a severe problem down there with drainage. Any of the people that live in the lower levels over there can attest to the amount of water that actually flows through there during a rainstorm. Keith, when he was living there, what he did was he actually went over there and he dug like this 12-foot pit in the middle of the woods over there. So if you were to walk out there right now, you'd find this 12-foot pit that's probably about 3 or 4 feet deep, full of water that never dries up all year long. And the reason being is because wherever the water drains from, it just seems to end up down in there. Now, the garage that's down there, the 2-stall garage, that actually used to fill up with water when it would rain because all the water would run off down into that property.
Is this on your property or their property?
No, it's actually on their property, but, you know, it does kind of affect my property because if you go down into my lot's clean. You know, I've taken all the brush and everything that's in there now, and it's a nice clean lot. So opposed to, I realize if they sell it, somebody will probably go in there and clean it up and stuff like that. But I mean, it's the drainage. If you go to the end of my property line that abuts the people that are on Glen Ridge, you'll see there's a ditch that kind of runs down along the backside of their property just to prevent the water from running into their property. The large percentage of that runoff comes from that property because it's just the way the geographics of the property is. I mean, you've got an 8-foot rise dropping down into a valley, so the water's got to go somewhere. And the way St. A's is kind of tapered off, it all kind of runs into that back area.
So how does this impact this application? Your concerns?
Drainage, for one. I mean, I understand we're dealing with lot lines right now, but somewhere along the lines, I'm not sure when it would go to the planning board, that's when they would address the drainage issues, or?
I'm not sure that the planning board would do that. I'm not an expert on how they're gonna look at that as being a lot line adjustment.
Marking off lot lines, I would think would be a time where, you know, since they're having somebody survey it, that they'd actually mark off the lot lines so that, you know, if they're selling it to a prospective buyer, that they look and they can geographically see where the lot lines actually are.
Okay.
I mean, right now, there's not, I mean, I went down to look for my old pins down there, and I can't find them down there, so
Okay.
that's it.
That is a typical requirement of a subdivision or a lot line adjustment, though, that when a plan gets recorded, that property pins are placed and that the surveyor certify that they were placed.
Just in where the lot line is changing, or all the way back to the wooded area?
The planning board has a little bit of flexibility in determining sometimes on how that goes. You know, if it's not an issue for people, then, you know, they may grant a waiver of doing some that's way back in the woods or on a steep slope or something like that. But in this case, where there's residences all around, it probably would be a requirement to do that. And that, you know, if the zoning board wanted to make that a condition of approving something, I mean, I think that would be.
And you would have an opportunity
within your
to
rights.
speak about this at the planning board as well, correct? You
That's
would?
correct.
And you'd be renoticed as an abutter in that application.
Public hearing, that's
For a
right.
public hearing for that.
Okay.
And then you could convince them to look at your line specifically.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we had another hand out there. Ma'am, please come forward. Good evening.
We live at lot 12, the one that comes into the property there.
So 12 Glen Ridge.
Yes.
Can you spell your last name?
Hutchinson, Hutchinson.
Okay.
And my only concern is that we've been there for 50 years, and we don't really have too much communication as to what's going to be built there. We kind of would like to know, you know, pretty much know that they're going to build something. But we would like to know what's going to be built. And behind our property, you're talking about a 4.5 feet, I mean, if a house goes in back there, what are the, is it 10 feet, is it 30 feet for the boundary lines to put a piece
So you're
of property?
saying if a piece,
So if I wake up one day and there's gonna be a 2-family home back there, or a single family, is it gonna be right in my backyard?
again,
And
you
would-
said
and
you
it
live
would be
at
10 feet away?
12 Glen Ridge, is that across the road from the right-hand piece of property
I'm the
there?
one that divots in,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the,
23, right?
you said 23?
no,
The address is.
I'm sorry, so you're lot number 12, you're at 23 Glen Ridge?
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
so if and when they build a house back there, will the dimensions be 10 feet, will they be 30 feet, or will they be 4.5 feet from the lot lines?
I can tell you what setbacks are in the residential 2 zone. It's 25 feet for a front yard setback, 30 feet for a rear yard setback, and 15 feet for a side yard setback. So depending on how, if they subdivided this, or if they just left it as one lot and wanted to put one house, I mean, they would have, and they've shown it on this drawing. There's a little dashed buffer line that shows, you know, where they couldn't build.
Where they couldn't
Closer,
build?
they couldn't build closer to that line with a house. They could put a shed maybe up to 10 feet from the property line, but, I mean, that's,
So a house is 15 feet?
the house would be 15 on the sides and 30 in the rear. So depending on where they place the house.
From your property, that would be considered a side setbacks, correct?
So 15
yes.
feet behind us?
So 15, no closer than 15 feet to your property.
Right,
Right.
okay. All right,
All right. Any other comments?
I don't think so.
Well, thank you for coming by. Anyone else? Okay, no one else? Any interested parties? Okay, any last questions from the applicant? We need, I should ask for the applicant, anything that you that you heard tonight you need to speak back to?
No, I believe everything has been said, and I hope it's clear for everyone. They're just wanting to move the lot line from lot 8. no,
Right.
10.
And that right now you have nothing intention of and being built on that, lot 8?
No.
Okay. Anything else before we close the public hearing?
Just wanted to ask, this, where the house is, it's a non-conforming lot,
That's correct, because it doesn't meet all the setbacks.
and they're trying to make it a more non-conforming lot.
Is it gonna be more non-conforming? It'll be a rear setback issue, so that's
The lot on the north would be more non-conforming.
both in
Setbacks,
setback and size. And that's where we're coming for variances.
Okay.
But the other lot actually becomes more compliant for size.
Correct.
Right.
Kinda moving your bad stuff around.
Flip-flopping.
Yeah. Exactly, that's kinda what you're doing. All right, anything else, Vivian?
No,
All right, with that, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Open to motions or any other additional discussions on this application. All right, I'll make a motion to approve this application.
I'll second it.
when I was there Sunday, I wish there would have been some people home, but there was no cars in the yard. I'm like, oh. But, I did see, however, see a nice Keurig coffee maker right at the door here where Dupree is right now, and I'm like, wow, somebody could have taken that. It was this, and Saturday, and it's Sunday, and I'm like,
Maybe they're trying to get rid of it.
yes, I don't know if it's still there, but boy.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the application as written, and a second. Any discussion?
I'm a little concerned about making that one lot more non-conforming. Because we are tasked with not allowing that.
Right, I hear you.
So that's one of my concerns.
I think the reason it's more non-conforming, like Brian said, it's gonna be the rear yard setback that's gonna make it more non-conforming. I always thought we're gonna make it
One of the questions I wrote to myself was, is there a reasonable alternative to the rear yard setback? Could they have moved the lot line further,
If they come further
Down.
into the property, then it's gonna make it, it's gonna give you this
Even stranger
terrible
lot.
jog.
yeah, your lot lines are just whacked all
Yeah,
over the place.
you're-
And then if you're
gonna
to,
be planting pins everywhere.
and if you were to come down, say, level with that other lot, lot 8, to go straight across, you're running into the barn. You're
Exactly.
subdividing the barn.
And no matter
So-
what you do with that area, there's very little conforming
Right.
lots around.
Yeah. So that's where, when he said, we're doing it to, we're trying to sell the piece of property, we're trying to make, they're doing a little bit of adjustment to try to give 4.5 feet of rear setback to the cottage. It wasn't a lot, but you can see they adjusted it a little bit.
Yeah.
So they tried to take in consideration,
I mean,
zoning
basically, you've
ordinance.
already created the jog, so how big it is now is,
Right.
I suppose, a non-issue, but. it's
To get it
gonna-
to 30 feet, you're going quite a ways.
If you bring this lot line straight back down, on the left-hand side, if you bring that straight down and square it off with this lot 8,
Mhm.
then you're gonna be making a real strange
It's not really
piece.
usable piece of
It's not
property.
usable. And you're gonna bringing that lot line down probably within the setback of the barn, which is gonna create another problem.
So
And
you're
I'm
kinda-
sure if there's
yeah.
gonna be any development that, the planning board, and I think the, Public Works would be really involved in it because of the drainage issue that is in that area
Mhm.
and has been there for years. And I know they did some new drains, off of, I don't remember that, Rosemont, I think it was, and into by, where Cumberland Farms is. But, they would certainly be involved,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
The other problem with bringing that lot line down is now you've got a little bit better area here if you were gonna build a house. Then if you brought that lot line down, you'd have to move the house down in order to make your setbacks,
If-
side
Right,
setbacks
if
and
you
all.
were to go into the
If you were
interior
to go
versus on the
right.
edge, right. This preserves options for them.
Right.
All right, any further discussion on this application? So we have a motion to approve with a second. All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So that's 4-0. Okay. All right. Thank you for all sticking it out.
When I pick my blueberries.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's blueberry
Bring
season
some
now. So I'm told.
It is. I keep saying I wanna get out there.
Blueberries from last year. We picked 20 pounds, 15 pounds last year. Year before it's 21.
Good night.
Very good farm. It wasn't as good there last year, but this year, I hope for better. Sounds like a good deal.
Did you freeze them all?
Yes, and they come out awesome. You just throw them in a bag and freeze them. All right, the next application. I think we're okay, no breaks, we're all right? Daniel and Carol Moran, owners, applicants, are seeking a variance and a special exception to build an accessory dwelling unit to a single-family home. The accessory dwelling unit is permitted by special exception under section 3.12, which is the table of accessory uses of the Goffstown zoning ordinance, and the variance is required as the proposed dwelling unit will be 692 square feet, whereas section 5.2.1 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance permits a maximum of 650 square feet on accessory dwelling units. The property is located at 15 Miles Avenue, which is map 6, lot 67-2, in the agricultural district. And before we hear from the applicant, we need to determine if this application has regional impact, and the staff has recommended that it does not have regional impact.
So move.
I'll take.
I'll second.
All right, there we go. Any discussion that it does not have regional impact? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. And I bet we have an applicant here tonight. Please come forward, sir. And, let's see, that's not right there. State your name.
Daniel Moran.
Okay, and what are you trying to do that hasn't been already described in what I just read? What do we have in front of us?
We have a single-family home with a two-car garage. I'm just trying to put an in-law on top of the garage, not changing the footprint at all.
Okay, and to do that, can we close one of those doors, Brian? Thank you. To do that, you need to have a variance because the in-law apartment is gonna be 42 square feet larger than the zoning ordinance allows, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then a special exception, which is pretty routine to have an in-law apartment, that you need a special exception. I guess describe the in-law apartment. So right now, there's a garage there, is that
Yeah,
correct? It's
yeah.
a peaked garage?
Yep. What they'll do is take the roof and off the garage, they'll just go up one level and then repeat it.
Okay. How is it that the design, you're not able to design it so that it meets no larger than 650 square feet?
Well, I'm trying to keep the house looking in perspective instead of setting it back or whatever.
Jagged edges, you're
Right,
trying
I'm
to
just trying to
flush?
keep it all clean, you know?
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board? I know I have a couple more, but I'll let the board ask any questions.
I did visit that location, and I see where he's coming from, because I think we more or less eyed it and said that if he was to limit the 50 feet, he'd have, you know, a space
Yeah.
on the roof that wouldn't make sense.
Okay?
Just trying to keep it looking like all the other houses.
You wouldn't have to worry about moving carrier walls or anything like that because you're building up on the basic box that you've got now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly walk through the variance criteria before I have my questions on the special exception. And I gotta find it. So the variance has 5 criteria. The first speaks to the granting the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. And you're saying that it remains a residential and primary residential district, residential homes in the area. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because you're exceeding the square footage by 42 feet in order to maintain the consistency of the footprint, as we just talked about. Granting the variance would do substantial justice, that this is a minimal square footage in excess of the requirement to make the comfortable living space for your parents to live. That you say that it does not affect surrounding property values, that you're saying a number of the homes in the area have residences that look like this or large homes,
Yep.
multi-level, so that it doesn't really change the character of the neighborhood. You speak to that demonstrating the literal enforcement of the provisions and the ordinance will result in an unnecessary hardship. Speaking to that there's several homes in the neighborhood with similar size and multifamily use. And they're all zoned, all the properties in the area are zoned similarly, is that correct?
Yes, everything is zoned agricultural up there.
Okay. So you're really not changing the character of the area that, all right. Anyone have any questions on the variance criteria? All right, the special exception criteria, there are 6, is that right? 5, again. That you speak to that it's appropriate with the current master plan, remains a residential use. The size or frequency will not significantly alter the character of the neighborhood, which we already spoke to. The use will not create a nuisance or hazard to vehicles or any pedestrians. There will only be one additional vehicle in the driveway, and I know that's one of the special exception criteria, that you have to have a parking spot for that
Yep.
thing. The lot is of sufficient size to allow for these facilities, and the proposed location is of sufficient size to allow for appropriate buffers, and you're really not changing your setbacks or anything. I guess my specific question is, special exception criteria, paragraph 5.2.3. Are you having an interior door from the in-law apartment to the residence?
Not from room to room, but from inside the garage to go up. Like, that's how I get in my house now. I go in the garage and I get in my house.
Okay?
Is that what you're?
So, yeah, traditionally what you're thinking of is, you have a common wall, right? And you would, that's how I've always perceived it. You have a common wall, you have a door in your common wall between the in-law apartment and your home. In this case, you're describing that they would go down a flight of, it appears to me from the drawings, that they
Yep.
go down a flight of stairs.
Yep.
They actually go outside,
Or there's a door to go into the garage.
okay?
So would they actually have to go in that door next to the two garage doors and then go left into your house? Go up the stairs and then right into the in-law apartment? Or would there be a separate egress from this garage door to go straight up the stairs into the in-law apartment?
Yeah, on the garage door to the right, that's the one they'd use, and there'd be a door to the right. They could get in to that egress on the side. So they can either come in from the garage or they can come in from outside.
And the outside is the doors on the,
On the
like a
back.
right,
On the side of the building.
right-hand side,
So I see.
which meets one of the requirements that you're not supposed to add any additional doors in the front for an in-law
Right.
apartment. I guess that met the requirement when they talked about, when, you know, the connecting,
To me, I wasn't sure exactly how to interpret that rule, because all it says is one interior door. It doesn't specify that it has to be connected on an interior wall.
right.
So to me, if it was interior to the garage, you know, I considered that as acceptable to meet the requirement.
And, you know, that's why I said is how I've always viewed it. I think one of the ideas is that the town is afraid that, well, I believe the interpretation of zoning ordinance is that the town wants you to use it to have a family member there, right? That you don't wall it off and start renting it out to
Right.
anybody. That's why they have this connecting door thing, is that you're meaning it. So I start looking at when you have exterior entrances like this that are quite elaborate, is, you know, you're right on the cusp of it's an apartment, is really what it comes down to. It doesn't meet the minimum size requirement for an apartment, you know, but that's, I guess, the interpretation of how I've looked at this special exception for in-law apartment, that it has to have that interior door. So it's my interpretation, may not be the board's, as we go through this, so. That was the only question I had. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I think it goes to the point about renting it, and the stairs, because you said it's for your retiring parents.
Mhm.
And at some point, would the stairs become a problem for them? You know, usually when you think of an in-law apartment for retiring parents, stairs are sometimes more of a hindrance than help.
I don't think there's a problem for them. I mean, it's not a big, long staircase. They're not going up 2 flights of stairs. They didn't see a problem with it, but whatever.
Any other questions, Scott? Vivian?
Nope. No, I'm all set.
Lift chairs can be put in. What I'm looking at on this drawing, this is the addition. And now the front of it, you come off the garage 2 feet,
Yes,
because you're trying to
Match the
keep the
front of the house.
same line as the front of the house.
that's right.
If you had kept it back the 2 feet, would it have dropped you back into the 650 square foot limit to save you from having to get a variance, or?
Well, I think, you know, all the roof lines and everything else wouldn't
Yeah,
have lined up right. I'm trying to not have water issues or whatever.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep it all.
I understand that. Okay, that's fine.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Moore, thank you. Any abutters that'd like to speak on this application, for or against?
Can I say that I have an abutters letter?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, thank you for reminding me, because we, I believe, have that in our package.
Is that this one?
From the Casey's, yes.
Yes, so we have in our package, they weren't able to be here tonight, but that Paul and Deborah Casey located at 12 Miles Avenue, which I imagine on your same side of the road,
Which is across the street from East Lake
across the
Station.
street, do not have any objections or concerns with the proposed project. They were not able to attend tonight. All right, thank you for reminding me of that. Is there any other interested parties? Any further questions from the board before we close the public hearing? If we asked everybody. Okay, I don't have anything else. Okay, the public hearing is closed on this application. Any motions or discussions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second motion to approve this application as written. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. That's it. Thank you.
Just want to tell Mr. Moran that you got a beautiful piece of property there.
Thank you.
Really nice and neat.
Thank
We
you.
really liked it.
Okay, now I know what interior doorways are better.
To me, it was on the fence.
Yeah,
But-
and I guess I didn't see it on the application package that it was clearly that interior. I expected that's probably what they were doing, but I couldn't clearly see it. So, the last public hearing of the evening, being 8:06. All right. So, William Galanis, Back Talk Chiropractic and Rehab, owner and Paradise Signs applicant, are seeking a variance for an internally illuminated sign located approximately 113 feet from the residential 2 zone. Whereas section 6.6.3 of the zoning ordinance requires that any sign that is located within 250 feet of a residential district boundary shall only be illuminated by shielded external white light. No internal illumination is permitted. The property is located at 4 Pershing Street, which is map 18, lot 4 in the commercial district. And before we hear the application, we have a recommendation by the staff that it does not have regional impact.
So moved.
Yes. 1, Gail. 2, Vivian, that it has no regional impact. Discussion? Vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay. Sir, your name?
Roland Paradise Signs. Dr. Galanis is looking to replace his existing 2 by 8 foot internally illuminated sign, which he got a permit for back in 1997, with a new sign with the maximum square footage, 65 square feet, and keep it internally illuminated and have a electronic message board on it.
Okay. And you described that the sign that's actually gonna go in is, the sign would meet the zoning ordinance, and you're actually moving it further into the property, is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
But it's gonna be internally illuminated. The whole sign is internally illuminated, or portions of it, or
The whole thing.
the whole thing? So in our packet, it actually has the 5 items on staff review. The sign would be setback. That it would not go to the back to the site plan. Is that correct? What you had on here, Brian? That it's not, I'm sorry, would not go to the planning board for any site plan.
That's correct.
But it does say a conditional use permit.
They are gonna have to go to the planning board for a conditional use permit because of the message board and the requirement that any sign that has information that or is controlled electronically or mechanically is required to go to the planning board for a conditional use permit.
Okay.
The sign that they're actually proposing, well, the existing sign is actually non-conforming for current regulations. The sign that they're proposing, we did outline on this drawing and help them come up with an area that is conforming for signs. And so where they've placed it is a conforming location for setbacks for signs.
Okay. I was fortunate on this packet because I live all within like a mile of 3 of the 4 applications, and I was able to ride my bike, and I almost killed myself in front of this property because the uneven pavement on the street.
There you are, it is. That's true, they fell, no.
I did go down, or my bike did.
Got till August and then that'll all be taken care of.
Yeah.
Took me out. I left a mark.
What's that? On you at the street.
Me. So that sign will be able to be seen by residential properties. I see on the left and the right of you, let's see, so on the, looking at you from the street, on the left is residential small business. On the right is commercial, on the rear is commercial. Right behind you is residential, and to the back left is also residential. So this sign will be able to be seen by at least 1 or 2 residential pieces of properties,
Yes.
what you could determine?
Yeah, it'll be 113 feet away. instead of the required 250.
But visually, if you're standing on their piece of property, you would be able to see that sign?
Dr.
No.
Galinas may
You don't
know
think
better
so?
than I do.
On Pershing Street, 6 Pershing Street, no, because I'm directly in front of them. Where the sign is now, it's illuminated, they can't see it. The only property is the Scarboroughs, and they're,
5 Pershing Street, maybe?
no, they're, is that the street before Pershing? Hague. And they, yeah, and, I don't, we have like a 6, there, I don't think you could see it from there directly from any room in their place.
Hmm.
The, Mr., I'm drawing a blank, right on, Mass Road, next to me, Norman LaFawn. That sign's been there, my sign is lit, illuminated now. I don't know how his house is set up, but it's facing his house, but I don't know, he's never complained of it forever.
On this property, would you be able to describe what's that piece of property you're speaking of?
The one next door, right next door to him in the corner of Mass Road, he's commercial.
Okay,
He's directly across the street. Put it this way, he's looking at the gun shop sign.
okay, got it.
So if there's a sign, he can see it's the gun shop and the photo, he's facing those signs.
He's in a piece of commercial property.
Yeah.
So to him, that's, I look at it as this, and sir, your name is,
Bill Galanis.
yes, thank you. He's on a piece of commercial property, so this doesn't really apply to him. I'm looking at,
Scarborough's, Robert and Ann.
on,
They're on, I keep forgetting the name of the street next to Pershing.
Hague.
Is it Hague? I keep.
Yes.
maybe I have a better map here.
They're
Hague in
they're at
front of the
corner
gun
right-
shop?
Right behind Mr. LaFawn on that street.
Hague comes in right in front of the gun shop,
Yeah, they could, and they're close to.
and Pershing and whatever else.
Yeah, and they're already close, within 100, 250 feet to the gun shop sign themselves, because they're only one house behind them, so they're
Those,
directly looking at those.
those first 4 houses though, they're all zoned commercial.
Yeah.
Even though they're residential uses,
Yeah.
they are zoned commercial.
So I'm looking at 5 Pershing Street is what I'm looking at. 5 Pershing Street looks to be residential too, would probably be the only piece of property that could easily see that sign.
And that's Louise and, is it the Goslings? Is that the house?
Right here?
It's probably on the
Yeah,
abutter
Goslings.
list,
If I'm here, where am I, right?
You're here.
I'm here, so I'm
Here's
looking at.
Pershing.
and they're not.
We're talking that one? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Goslings. The sign, I don't even know if they could see it because the sign's there, that's where they're at.
Is this their
Uh,
house or is this their house?
5
That's
Pershing
their
Street is the
garage.
Goslin family.
That's the pool, that's the
That's
house.
their house?
That's the house, that's their garage.
According to the abutter list, 5 Goslin, 5 Pershing is the Goslin
Yeah, the
family.
Jean, yeah.
I mean, when I almost killed myself, I was over there trying to see what perspective would people would have. And I could see homes, but I had to look at this map to see which was residential, which was commercial. It looks to be that one.
Where their garage is, they could see, but not where, I don't think where their home is.
Okay.
Dr. Galanis hasn't had any objections from any of the surrounding abutters, so.
Yeah, doesn't look like anybody's here tonight regarding that either.
You guys were scared though, weren't you, when that was all these people?
Okay, any members of the board have any questions for the applicants?
So how much bigger is this new sign gonna be from the old one?
It's going from about 16 square feet to the maximum allowed 65.
So if I was another member of this board, I know I would ask the question, how often is this gonna be lit? Is it lit 24 hours a day? Is it lit after hours?
It's on a timer right now, and I think we shut it, it goes off 1 o'clock or 12, depending upon and then goes back on at like 6.
So when you say 12 or 1, that's midnight or 1 o'clock in the
Yeah, I
morning?
think that's the timing, and because, we used to have, the lights illuminate there, but years ago, we had problems in the parking lot, and the police department sometimes pulls in, so, at least till 11 or 12, we keep it on.
Okay, oh, that's why you keep it on to is a deterrent?
Just illuminate in the parking lot a little bit, when it's dark, we've had a lot of cars overnight, I used to get calls from the tow trucks that knew me, years ago, so, but it's sort of, nobody parks there overnight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now with this sign, because of it's gonna have a scrolling message on it?
The electronic sign would
The
be a
electronic
fixed
sign.
message, that would only be changed once every 24 hours, kinda like the grasshopper sign.
Okay,
The zoning ordinance allows one change per 24 hours.
That's correct.
Yeah.
all right, so now would this all be shut down at midnight? Or would it run 24 hours?
I think you had that stipulation.
Yeah, I had made a recommendation in the planning board's
Mhm.
report that it be closed down at 11.
Yep.
Which is, I think, about the time that Hannaford's and everybody else
Right.
closes down.
It seems reasonable.
So, and I know that the Irving gas station further down on Henry Bridge, I know they shut everything down at 11.
Okay.
Okay,
So, you know, to me, I thought that was reasonable to
just so
make
this
that
wouldn't be
recommendation.
flashing messages all night long.
And if the planning board, you know, decides to approve the conditional use permit, you know, that would be one of my recommended conditions of approval.
Okay,
The sign wouldn't scroll, or it would just be a fixed message,
okay.
and then once every 24 hours, it'd be a new message. No scrolling or animation or anything.
I think that answers my question, that discussion, because the only question I've written down is, you know, what's the purpose? Is it about advertising when you're open or just all the time? You know, when's it lit? It's a big sign compared to what you have, so
Yeah.
it's, when you talk about light pollution, it's a big sign.
Well, I'm actually zoned for 3 businesses in there, and I have a massage therapist upstairs right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she's complaining because she doesn't have any signage, so I'm just, you know.
Yeah, you're able to share that sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think there was a stipulation you had where you requested a opaque background.
I was making that recommendation just due to, it does put off less light pollution, so that was another one of my recommended conditions of approval.
I don't know how light, it's just, we're white now, I don't.
Just to switch the
Yeah.
lettering from dark
Oh, the
to light.
lettering?
If you switch the lettering to light and the background to be dark,
Mhm.
that'll put off a lot less light into the sky and and it would hopefully be a lot less obtrusive to the neighbors, intrusive.
Would it, how would it?
Yeah, that would work. It does do that, cut down on the impact of the lighting, but it would still, the lettering would still show up. Put bold lettering, and, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, the board have any other questions? All right, and you speak to the variance criteria, I'm not gonna actually walk through it, because it's quite lengthy, unless anyone had any specific questions. We touched on all of these, items in here. All right, thank you.
Okay.
I'll ask it, any abutters or interested parties that would like to speak on this application? Any last questions from the board before we close the public hearing? Okay, close the public hearing. Any motions or discussion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Do you want to include the condition that it closes down, or it shuts off at 11?
Right.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
Amend the motion to include a recommendation that the sign be shut down at 11 o'clock at night and allowed to re-illuminate at 6 a.m.
Okay, sounds good.
Is that a recommendation or a?
That's a condition.
Is it a condition?
Make it a condition?
So it'd be no later than 11, no earlier than,
I'm thinking went along with all the other businesses, so I would concur.
achievable? Okay.
Okay.
Any discussion on that? You've got that?
Got it.
All those in favor of the approval of the variance with the one condition regarding timing of illumination of the sign, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstained? Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. So that is the last, that is the last item on our public hearing. We have some correspondence. The first is a request for a hearing from James Grzinski, map 20, lot 20, 471 Mass Road. It's the application we heard last a month, and obviously with the application for rehearing, it was denied. We have that in front of us, the application for rehearing. Any comments? Obviously, we don't take any, it's not a public hearing, we don't hear from it, the applicant. It's all on the package and minutes, et cetera.
For the rehearing, isn't he supposed to come forth with a new,
So if we grant a rehearing, based that we determined we either did something wrong, or there's some new information, or what we did was illegal, then they would have an opportunity to come back and present the application over again. Either with the new information or the corrected information,
I
so.
thought they had to come back with new information that hasn't been put forward.
In a rehearing, it just opens the discussion back up. The decision to make a rehearing is based on whether or not you feel that you made a decision unreasonably or illegally, or that somehow otherwise should have been thought through more, or, you know, clarified better, or whatever the decision may be. That's up to you guys.
That's why we get the big bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the application that came to us was a variance, and that's how it was presented in the package. That he was coming up for a variance, asking for the right to have 3 driveways on this piece of property, that by zoning ordinance, as interpreted, based on the conditions and by the staff, that he would only be allowed to have 1 driveway. And even that driveway was gonna be larger than what would normally have been considered because of grandfathering. It was up to past 22 feet, it was larger than that. So the applicant had come here to say, I want to have 3 driveways, and he presented the case in that. In the package and in the discussion was, should this been a grandfathering issue? And we talked about that. The package wasn't presented as a grandfathered issue. I'm assuming that, and from what I recall and read in the minutes, was the staff had looked at it as a grandfathered issue and determined that it did not meet that criteria. The applicant has come to us with a request for a hearing, essentially in 2 pieces. The first piece, on like 3 of the pages, that says, I think it should be grandfathered, 4 pages. It says, this should be a grandfathering issue, and that's just the way it is. And then, but then he does speak through addressing the denial that we had in June, and went through our rationale. So he looked at our determination that it was, and then spoke to every one of the every one of the items that we determined that it did not meet muster for a variance, and he spoke to those cases. So how I look at this this request for a hearing is that how I'm going to look at it is a variance discussion would have to be a rehearing. If we were to believe, excuse me, a grandfathering issue would require a rehearing, because we did not look at it from that application. That we didn't go through the timeline. I didn't map out a timeline. I didn't look at what were the uses of that timeline, who owned it, did it meet the criteria of the zoning ordinance at the time. I didn't get into that. So if we believe that we messed up, that really this should have been a variance issue, I keep saying it should have been a grandfathering issue, I would recommend they would have to go back. But the piece on him speaking to, did we err when we looked at it as a variance, I think we did all right. We looked at all the facts presented. We understand the variance criteria. We looked at the evidence. We heard from the public in the public hearing. We made a determination. I see no new information regarding the variance application. So I don't see I'm not going to recommend that we rehear the application based on the variance criteria.
Do Do you know that this was a driveway years ago? Do we know it was a driveway? Do we have the topography that says it was a driveway? Was it ever a driveway? How can it be grandfathered? Because they said it was just was it a pathway to go to the back of the house or something, or the garden?
The applicant spoke to some of that. He talked about what he had used it for. He had talked about notionally how long, 30 years, 50 years, 20 years.
But he has the ability to go the other way too.
Right. It didn't map it out. And I'll even add one else thing, in that I'm not even gonna recommend that the case with this is strong enough that I'm gonna force it to go back to say, we need to look at it from the grandfather, because I don't see that it, what's been in front of us would meet muster. So my bottom line is, I am not gonna recommend a rehearing on this.
I would agree. I remember asking Brian specifically what the plan shows, and it shows just one driveway. And when I saw the property, although some of it's a little bit worn, it's just more of a pathway around his property. It's not really a driveway onto the street, so I would agree.
Anyone else? Okay, I think I'm gonna make a motion to deny the request for a rehearing.
I'll make a motion to deny the request for a rehearing.
Oh, I made the
Just
first.
made the motion.
Second. Oh, I was wondering if you were gonna make it. I'm saying.
Oh, no, I said I'm going to make it, yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't-
Sorry. There you go. And your second? Any discussion on the denial of the request for a hearing? All those in favor of the denial, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstain? Okay. All right, thank you. And the last things on the correspondence is we have a copy of the article from the town and city, the last one we got. There's a case of municipal significance. I copied it and I sent it in.
Yep.
You should have all had that. Of the town and city from the June 2012. I'll take a look at that one as well. And then we got the letter from the Caseys talking about the from the Miles Avenue application. That's all we have for correspondence, public hearing. But we do have one other item for other business. So we put it off for a couple of months, but we've got it in front of us.
Should we put it off again since half our board isn't here?
No.
Just throwing it
Well,
out there.
do you want to, do we want to initiate the conversation on? Is there anything that we would recommend anybody think about?
Well, I think probably a full board's in order, because maybe some of them have some highlighted stuff, or do you wanna just?
I would offer up just that if you've gone through it and have some comments, you can always send them on, or give them to me now, and, I can make up a revised, draft, and then everybody can review that latest one, and if they're at the meeting next month, then we can discuss it then.
I read through it and I can't add anything.
I'm gonna make my couple comments. It's nothing critical, and then people can chew on it, and we don't have to vote on it tonight. We can press to another night, but, it's got obviously the stipulation here that you don't have to follow these exactly. It talks about in the public hearing on page 3 of 5 and top of 4 of 5, that the clerk shall call the hearing in session, clerk's report, clerk shall read the application. I guess happens mostly in the planning board, Brian. We don't really follow that procedure here.
With a clerk you're talking about?
Yeah, so 3A and 3B.
3A, chairman shall call the hearing in session and ask for the clerk's report on the first case. Yeah, if you wanna
We don't do
strike out the part about the clerk, I think that's probably okay.
Yeah, and similarly, on B, unless we need to do that legally, if we need to describe how public notice was given on 3B.
Maybe the application report, public notice in person, okay.
So unless it's legal, I don't think we need to do that, because we haven't been doing it. We haven't been
Yeah.
talking about how public notice was given.
I don't believe it's
So
necessary.
I would just strike the whole thing. In paragraph 4, we talk about deliberations. It's something that we added last time, and the fact that when we designate an alternate to be a voting member, it talks about that we would do that before.
Do you want, I'm sorry,
Deliberations.
I want to back up. just
Sure.
On B.
Yeah,
Should I should I have it read that the chairman shall read the application? Period?
that would be fine. And just put a period at that.
That's it.
Read the,
Or
not the application, read the, what do
The
you call it?
staff report.
The summary?
or Staff summary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the last change I would recommend is, I think it's been working well in the fact how we designate the voting alternate, before the deliberation stuff. I'm actually gonna recommend that we change it to at the commencement of the hearing of that case, because I like to have all 5 members to vote on regional impact, and usually right from the beginning of 5. That would be the only thing I would change, is that right at the
beginning of the session? Or
at the beginning of the application.
Yeah, that's what you've been doing.
Where is that?
On 4A,
4A,
so at the beginning of the application,
predict session. Okay,
and that
so,
this chairman shall designate which members will vote on the appeal.
Yeah, it's good to have it at
should
the
I
beginning.
should I just say at the beginning of the, well, not even the public hearing, right? At the
Right.
beginning of the application?
Yeah, so each application I would designate, unless I make, like tonight, I said Vivian's gonna be it for all applications tonight. Cause that way, then we can rotate through the alternates. Then they can be right up, they know right at the beginning that they're gonna be a voting member, they can vote on the regional impact. So we never have 4 people or whatever that are voting on regional impact, yet there's 5 or 6 of us here,
So, is it good if I say prior to the beginning of each application, the chairman shall designate?
Which members will vote on the appeal.
Prior to the beginning.
Yeah, prior to the beginning of each application, the chairman shall designate which members will vote on the appeal.
Yeah. That meets my intent, of what I was
Okay.
looking at. That's all I had. Did anyone else have anything they want to throw out now? Just note that the amendment procedures on page 5 indicates that if we change them, we need to have a majority vote to do it, and before we can actually implement it, looks like, amended is read at 2 successive meetings preceding, so we actually have to read it 2 different meetings before we can even take the final vote.
Yep.
So.
So we've already turned it into a
Bizarre.
3-month process.
You wanna change that?
Change the, unless it's required by law. Do we know if it's required by
I don't know,
RSA?
I can check it.
Okay.
I'll
It
check.
probably allows people to give public input into the procedures, so you're not changing things willy-nilly. No offense to Willie or Nellie. So take a look at that one, yeah.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else? Looks like that's all that's on the agenda this evening.
That's it.
I'll take any motions for adjournment.
So moved.
Vivian first,
Second.
Ed second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.